For years this blind man had sat at the edge of the street, a familiar figure in the city. People knew where to find him. The blind beggar, one of those people whose lives seem to confirm just how the world is. The disciples this day see him and they want an explanation. Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? This is simply the kind of question people ask when they have been taught that the world must make moral sense. Suffering must have a cause. Someone must be responsible. Lives must fall into categories. Good people, bad people. Blessed people, cursed people. Blind people, seeing people. But Jesus rejects the premise. Neither this man nor his parents sinned. You see, for Jesus, this man does not have a defect that must be explained. His dignity is not dependent on his sight. Jesus sees him and treats him with dignity and respect as he sat there beside the road while others passed him by. Because the problem that Jesus addresses is not the blindness of the man, but the blindness of the community that cannot see him. So Jesus does something unexpected, kneeling down in the dust. Imagine the ground beneath his feet as dry, powdery earth. Imagine Jesus spitting, saliva darkening the dust, his fingers mixing the two together to form mud, clay. Do you hear the echo from Genesis that occurs throughout the Gospel of John? This is the dust from which long ago God shaped the first human being and breathed life into them. Dust and breath, earth and moisture. Jesus presses that mud against the man's eyes. Imagine the sensation if you had been without sight your whole life. Gritty clay smeared across eyelids that have never opened to light. Your physical touch heightened because you've relied so heavily upon it as an extra sense. Not clean mud, not antiseptic, no hand wash in those days. This is not polite. This is mud on eyelids, mud made from spit. Go, wash in the pool of Siloam. We are told that the man simply goes. But we're not told what he thought as he walked through the streets with mud on his face. He'd already been an object of derision. And now, though he finds the water, he bends down and he washes the clay away. And then the world appeared. Light, movement, faces, stone walls and streets, the water shimmering before him, colour where there had only been darkness. He comes back seeing, and then the miracle of the story really begins. Because the neighbours stare and say, "Is this not the man who used to sit and beg?" Some insist it must be him, others hesitate. Surely not. Their categories of good and bad and cursed and blessed are struggling to keep up with this transformed reality. And the man, as he does on many occasions, speaks up for himself. I am the man. This simple sentence carries a confidence. The one who has been an object of speculation has gained agency as well as sight. How did this happen? They ask him. A man called Jesus made mud, spread it on my eyes and said to me, "Go to Siloam and wash." So I went and washed and received my sight. The scandal then goes to the religious authorities where lines are drawn and judgments are formed. The man is questioned again and again. His parents are questioned. Facts are cross-checked. But the man who once sat silent beside the road now stands proud and tall with dignity and a voice of his own. I am the man. I was blind, but now I see. The response is anger. You were born entirely in sin. and they cast him out. When a human life refuses to fit the map we have drawn of the world, of us and them, the simplest solution is to remove such lives from the map altogether. And astonishingly, Jesus hears that he has been driven out, and he goes searching for him. The one who was labelled, categorised, dismissed, questioned, disbelieved, and then expelled is precisely the one Jesus seeks out. And in that meeting, the man's vision deepens further again. He recognises the one who stands before him and entrusts his life to him. Let me ask you, who in this story really is the blind person or people? Jesus does not tell this story because blindness must be fixed. Sight in this story is not the opening of eyes. It is the social blindness of the community who cannot recognise the human being standing before them. And sometimes this social blindness appears in very public ways, doesn't it? On Monday, 16th of February 2026, the Australian politician Pauline Hanson declared that, quote, "There are no good Muslims," unquote. In the light of today's gospel, that assertion needs to be confronted clearly because it is wrong. It is morally wrong because it condemns millions of human beings in a single breath. It is theologically wrong because it denies the image of God in all people. It is socially wrong and disruptive because it refuses to see the people who are standing before us bearing the image of God, the good image of the good God. Christian faith begins with the conviction that every human being is created in the image of God. Not just Christians, not just people who share our culture or language. Every human being, every Muslim carries the same God-given dignity as every Christian, the same breath of life, the same creaturely goodness that comes from the Creator. To say that there are no good Muslims is therefore to deny something fundamental about God's creation. It is to imagine that the goodness God has woven into human life can simply vanish from whole communities if we so wish. But it cannot, and it must not. For as Solzhenitsyn said, the dividing line between good and evil does not run between people, but through every human heart. That is why the gospel refuses the lazy and careless language of division, the language of us and them, good people and bad people, pure and impure. Such divisions allow us to pretend that we are safely on the right side of history and holiness, that our tribe is the winner and the others are the losers. But these divisions distort reality, and they are deeply and profoundly dangerous. For once we decide that we think an entire group of people contains no goodness at all, exclusion of them is justified. Suspicion of them is normalised, and hostility towards them is legitimised. And we all know from history where that road leads. John's story is a staggering rebuke of that type of social blindness, because Jesus' mercy keeps breaking through and disrupting our categories. Mud and spit, dust and water, a man washing his face in a pool, the shock of sight flooding into eyes that had never seen, and then the thought that those people who have seen and who have been seen stand up and find their voice. And this man's words, "I am the man," begin to echo outward as others stand with him. I am the woman. I am the refugee. I am the Muslim. I am the Hindu. I am the Christian. I am the child. I am the neighbour. we step out from the labels which others have placed upon us, refusing to disappear into categories others have determined. And we rise to stand and say, I was blind, and now I see. At the centre of this story, Christ is kneeling in the dust, and in the centre of our lives and of our community, Christ still kneels in the dust, still mixing dust and breath and making mud and pressing strange gritty mercy against human blindness, social blindness, so that we might recognise it and be cured of it. Could we even dare to imagine that Christ might kneel in the dust even before those who divide the world into us and them? Could we dare to imagine that Christ would kneel before people who are certain they see the world clearly, before presidents who speak of some groups as though they contain no goodness, before politicians who say there are no good Muslims? Can you imagine Jesus saying gently, Pauline, come here. Let me touch your eyes. Let me place this mud upon them. Let me send you to the water. The tragedy of this story is that we can be blind to the dignity and worth of others, however different from us they may be. The grace and gift and promise of this story is that Christ remains kneeling in the dust, mixing clay, pressing mercy, sending us to the waters, until we can hear those voices and see those faces all around us. I am the man. I am the refugee. I am the Muslim. I am the woman. And then hopefully we discover, when our hearts are finally broken open, that the light falling upon their faces is the same light by which our own eyes are finally opened. We discover then that each of us are invited to say, I was blind, but now I can see. Amen.